Hello everyone. So in this mod video we are finally going to be starting to work on our units. And similar to how we did it in our last video by creating our major faction, I'm going to just show you the Kazanji faction, like what is in here, because there are a couple of things that you may notice that are in here that won't necessarily pertain to the factions. And I'm going to go over just each one real quick just to show you what they are, so that way if you want to make units after if you want to make units after this video, then you can. Because in this specific video I won't get through everything, I'm only going to get through some things. But yeah, so these two, you have the era of constructibles. Basically this gives you the technology to be able to have your units. Then you already know about all this faction stuff. Then when we get down, we're going to have the simulation technology, which again just gives you the technology in order to actually do your have your units. The unit ability, this allows you to create your own unit abilities, and the same thing right here, this also allows you to create your own unit abilities. The main things right here are just these five. These five right here are the main things that we want. So I'm going to actually go into my Endless Legend public, and for today we're actually going to start on the most fun, the most fun, what's it called, creating your own faction unit, which is going to be the unit by definitions. Now, I'm not gonna copy the this one from the from the Endless Legend public simulation. Instead, I'm gonna copy it from the Kazanji, because if we were to open this up, you will see that there is a lot of there's a lot of stuff here, and like each one is very unique and different. And well, actually, you know what we could do? We can just take the one from here. We can just copy our. We can just copy this into our. God, I'm losing my brain right here. We can just copy our Silix character. So because right now, if we go into our Silix right here, if we go into our notes, we'll see that the first one that we have is the starting unit that you get is a normal Silic. So basically everything that a Silic would have, this is what you're gonna start out with. And just to show you like how all of this works, we are going to go. We are actually just going to kind of copy the Silix and just like kind of give it a new name and like call it ours. So I'm going to start. I'm gonna leave that Broken Lords right here, but I'm going to start over here. I'm gonna make my way down to down to around here and look for. I don't want to look for Silix or anything just yet, because I wanna. No, did I lose it? Okay, I lost it. Let's see. Down here, it should be around here. Oh wait, okay. Oh wait, that's Silix goal. Okay, I think Okay, yeah, this should be Silix. So we're going to delete everything else. We're going to scroll all the way down. We're going to delete everything else below here. Now, when you're making this, you may want to leave everything else around here if you want to like have examples or just like look around. But well, actually no, you don't, because it'll just take up too much, and you can just instead just look at it from the normal simulation right here. So yeah, so I'm going. So here we have our Silix. I'm just gonna go down and show you like what each thing does. So starting from top to bottom, like always. So we have our Silix, and I'm gonna just change this to Silix normal, and this is going to be the SF for Silix faction. I'm gonna just tab that so that way it goes even like that. I could fix the name later, but it doesn't matter because no one's really gonna be looking in here. So so right now we have our unit body Silix Golem, which we're just going to change the name to be Silex normal, or Silex N for just for short, because that's going, and we could just give it each one like a just a little letter at the beginning, because we'll have the Silex B for blue, Silex Y for yellow, Silex O for orange, Silex R for red, Silex green for green, and then Silex P for purple. And then we can also create our new thing, which is like the collector. So that's our name, and again, it's not like the actual name that you're going to be giving to your guy. It's more of like just a way to like organize it and figure out, so that way you can call this in your other documents. Then right here we have our category. So this determines like what type of unit this is. So if this was a support, you'd say support. If this was a flying unit, you'd say flying. Yeah, so remember, the top is always used for, well, not always, but mostly used as a way to organize. Then right here we have our affinity. So this is where it's going to actually belong to. Right now, the affinity is that it belongs to Silex. And if you notice here, when we look into other units, like the Broken Lords Infantry right here, you will see that they actually don't have any affinity to them, and this is because sometimes when you're dealing with different units, like when you're dealing with units that like some are part of a major faction, some are part of a minor faction, some are like quests, they add like extra things like affinity. So we're actually going to get rid of that affinity right there, because it is not used in any of the major factions right here. I mean, affinity will get called into, as you can see right here, so that way we know where this belongs to, but the affinity at the top doesn't mean anything. And another thing I want to mention is that the things that are right here, these are typically like just extra things. These aren't anything like, they're not really like anything too important, just more, well, I wouldn't necessarily say unimportant, but they're morally dealing with just extra things like the cost reduction, sometimes the affinity, just some other like things like to add to it. And for right here, we don't need to give it a cost reduction value at all, because we're not dealing anything with the Silex faction. Right here you have tags, and sometimes there'll be like tags like, for example, like the beast, it might say like during global event or something like that. But for right now, we're not going to have any tags. And if you look at the Broken Lords infantry right here, there's no tags right there, and that goes for like a lot of things. And then right here, so you start out with the top thing, which is about organizing. Then you have tags, which you can mostly ignore. Then the next thing is you're going to have unit ability reference. And now this is everything. This is all the these are all the abilities that your unit's going to have. And you can only use the unit abilities that are either in the game or that you've already modded. So if you want to make your own unit ability, you're going to need to, I might make like an extra video on that to show you like what I've learned from making your own unit ability, because it is kind of difficult. But yeah, like, making your own unit ability is just a little bit tough, but for right now, just stick with like any unit ability that's already in the game, and it doesn't specifically have to be a unit ability that's from like an actual unit itself. What I'm just getting at is that, similar to how we took the traits from we took building traits and added it to our major faction as well. You can do the same thing with unit abilities, except that it has to be with unit abilities. So for example, if there's an item that gives like plus 10 attack, you can get, or plus 10 attack for like every foot you move, like a charge, like a really high end charge. You can give that to as a unit ability reference. But you can't give something like plus 10 dust per city district, whatever, because that doesn't really count as a unit ability. That's more, there are things you can there are things you can use, but things like that are morely for heroes, if anything. And I'm not entirely sure how those necessarily work, so for right now I'm not going to talk much about it. And yeah, so continue. So we're gonna leave this for right now because we want to keep our Silix the way it is. We don't, because this is our normal one. We just want to keep it normal. And then right here we have our cost. So this is going to be the cost of our unit. So the first thing that we have, so we have the resource name. Um, so this is like what it's going to actually be, how it's going to cost. So right here it's going to be cost production, or in some case, and this includes like buying out production as well. And the instant right here means that like I'm pretty sure that instant means that if you buy it out, will you get it on the same turn? And for most things, it will be false because you won't buy something and then get it on the same turn. Every time in Endless Legend you buy something, you'll wait a turn and then you're able to use it. And I'm gonna leave that just as is for now. Later on, I may play around with it, but for this normal one right here, we're just gonna leave that. And then right here we have our cost. So I guess I'll just go through this real quick. So this is just saying that so one of these right here is just saying, okay, so there's two ways you can actually go about this cost. You can either do it where you can just say a flat out, where you can delete all of this right here and just say 60 production, and your thing will cost 60 production. But then there's the other aspect, which is this is typically what Endless Legend likes to do, where it will it will like, so these two right here are going to be the cost of the unit per every like empire, like for like every era that you're in. Oh wait, no, sorry, this one is the one for your error, and this one is, I'm pretty sure that there's a standard unit like cost, and basically what this does is that it just says, so for right here you're going to have your standard unit cost, because if you notice, a lot of units have like a very like about the same production cost, and that's because they're all using this unit production cost more than average thing right here, and this is just the standard unit cost. Like if you notice, even in right here when we have our production cost right here, well, okay, this one's actually a bit different, but there's different like rule sets to how it is. So you might not see a number right here. I mean, we could change this to be an actual number and it will still work fine. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to be something like 60. So this is going to cost 60 production plus the what's called unit production cost more than average times the cost increase per error. And so we can also change this to be, I don't know, 10 times this extra cost per error, and that will work fine. Now let's say instead that you wanted it to your unit to also cost money. So what you could do is that I'm just going to copy this right here, and I'm going to just paste this down just to show you an example. Is that you can change this to be something called dust, and right now it's going to cost the same amount of dust as it would production. But you can also change that from dust. You could change it to titanium, like some sort of like strategic resource. You can change it to any type of resource per se, and that's what it will cost. So you can change this to be orbs, and it all really depends. But for most of these, we're going to just leave it as we're going to just leave the resource name as production, and depending on who we're working on, we're going to then add strategic resource 1, strategic resource 2. The next thing we have is our simulation descriptor references, and basically what these are is that, hold on, I just need to take a look at something just to refresh my memory. Okay, there's one thing that we forgot about this. So right here, right in between the right in between the unit ability and the cost of your unit, you're supposed to have this is like where it actually is going to belong. So remember how earlier we had our affinities right here. I'm gonna just change that right there. I don't remember if I had that in my last video or not, but I'm gonna go into my Silex faction and just open it up just to make sure I'm getting the right wording. But we changed we added like a whole new affinity. So right here, to make sure that like only we are getting this unit, we're going to change this to be affinity and SF. Now, let's say instead that we completely got rid of this path prerequisite. That means that this unit will be available to everyone. And anyone can build this. But if we want this to be specific to us, it's going to be affinity SF. And the reason how, and if you want to get something specific to you, because it might not just be specifically the Silex faction, but it might, or a faction in itself, but it might be technology, or you want someone to have a certain trait as well. What you can do is that you can call a path prerequisite. And what a path prerequisite does is that it's saying that in order for someone to have whatever this thing is, whatever this whole document is, not document, but like whatever this whole function is, we are going to need to have this right here. And there's another type of, and the flag right here, there's another type of thing you can do with the path prerequisite that's a bit rarer. I kind of forgot like what it was, but for most of the time, we're going to just be dealing with path prerequisite. And if we occur against, and if we occur the other flags, I'll probably remember what it does. But then right here, we have our Empire type major, and it's going to, and what our Empire type major is supposed to only be specifically the Empire type that has the affinity SF. Then we have our unit design. This is just I'm not entirely sure what that one is. I'm just going to take a look real quick in my Kazanji faction real quick, just because I don't want to say something and then have it be wrong. Okay, so I think that this is just like another prerequisite, because what you can do is that you can also give your, like, the design of your unit. You can give it the design based on what affinity you have. So for right here, I gave it the affinity KF. So if you don't want your affinity to be the affinity Broken Lords, it will actually crash and you'll just get like this weird sprite. You will change this to affinity SF. And I'm going to close that out. And then we have our inter prerequisite. And the interpreter prerequisite, basically what this is that this is just saying that, hey, if your class, this is just about like if you can actually build it. Because right here, because if you have a full slot, like a full garrison slot, and you can't fit anyone else inside your city, then you just can't build it. And so this is just saying that, hey, we're just not going to allow you to actually build this if you have, if your garrison maximum slot count is what's it called? Oh wait, no, because this is inverse. It's saying that you can only build this if your slot count is greater than your what's it called? City class is greater than your than the current slots that you have. And basically with this GE is that it's more of like an equal sign per se. So it's going to be, let's say that, so we have typically we'll have a maximum slot be 4. So if we have 4 people in our class, well, that's going to be 4 minus 4, which is 0. So GE, so 0 does not equal, so 0 is not greater than 1 or greater than or equal to 1. Because GE stands for greater than or equal to. So therefore this prerequisite, this whole thing wouldn't continue. but if we have 4 and then we have only 3 people, that's going to be 4 minus 3, which equals to 1, and then 1 equals 1, so then this is going to continue. And so that is just one of the prerequisites. And the inverted means that if this is, it's just saying that, like, if this is true, then continue, per se. Anyways, so now we went over the custom class. We added in our affinities, and so right here now we have our simulation descriptive reference. Yeah, I just want to make sure that they have that correctly, because as I said earlier, depending on what, like, if this is a major faction or a minor faction, or there's like a quest person, the way of how this is organized changes. So right here we have so for the simulation descriptor reference, we're going to change our affinity to be affinity SF, so that way this is, we'll get this when we are the Silics faction, and this is something that we will also see that we can build as well. The unit type, this is going to be the name of your unit. So for example, right here you can see the unit type being the Broken Lords Infantry, and that's the name of this unit right here, the Broken Lords Infantry. So wait, is it unit faction type? Okay, we can get rid of this unit faction type because we actually don't need that. That's more, I think, something, because by default it's going to be a major faction thing, but if you want it to be specifically for like a minor faction, then that's what you would call it. Then you have the unit type Silics Golem, but since that's not, this is just the name of your person, so our unit type is just going to be Silics N for normal. And actually I'm just going to type in normal, just so that way it's a bit easier to remember what the N is for, just in case. Then we have what our unit is going to actually be, like what class it's in. We have the size. The size also scales to the number of like units you have. Like this is specifically UI, or not UI, but this is specifically graphics. So, for example, you know how like whenever you see a large creature, it'll only be one of them, but when you see like a smaller unit, there'll be a lot of them. That's because the unit size scales also with the amount of units, and you could change this as well. Like you could create your own unit size. I forget where, but like there's a place where you can. But yeah, we're gonna leave this as large for now. Movement capacity, this is like how it will move. So if you want to create a C unit, you'd say sail. But yeah, that's how it will move. But most of the time, even with flying units, you also use walk. I'm pretty sure with flying units you also use walk, because yeah, so even with flying units you would also use walk, but like you'd give them the unit ability fly, and that will make it look like as though they're flying. And if they have the graphics to fly, they will fly. And then we have our item slots right here, and we can just leave that for now. I'm gonna look in here and make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, so I'm not missing anything. And so yeah, that's the simulation descriptor reference. This is more, just to sum up what this is more the specific things about your guy. So all like the number of slots you have, the size, the what like class it is, all this stuff, and like who it belongs to. All this stuff is a simulation descriptor reference. Scrolling down, we have our so this is actually what this is supposed to be, but because we already added that above here, we can actually just get rid of this. And the main thing about this that I want, and as you can see, we have our garrison maximum slot count. We have our whole like path affinity. So since we already have all this right above, we're going to just get rid of this. And the reason why I'm pretty sure that that's on the bottom. And meanwhile, like for the major faction, these are at the top. Is because two different people worked on this, and so one person decided to have it where they want to do it at the top, and then the other person who worked on minor factions and other units, they decided that they wanted to do it at the bottom. So that's how that probably went about, but I'm not entirely sure. Um, but yeah, it is interesting to see like the inside code and like how they actually kind of made this game. Um, I'm going to just delete this because we actually don't need that. And that's just wasted space. If anything, well, not necessarily wasted space, but just like annoying, if anything. So then right here we have our equipment. These are the things that we are going to receive when we create our unit. So let's say you wanted to have your unit start out with like a necklace or something like that. You put it in the accessory slot. If you want to have your unit start out with like give your unit a specific like head armor, you'd give it this. And yeah, that's the type of slot accessories that it will have. Then you have the body stance. This I typically don't mess with, because these are dealing more with the actual graphics of it. But either way, you wouldn't normally be working with this. This is just more as in like the slots that you'll have and like just other minor things. For this right here, we're not really going to work with it that much. Then we have the battle parameters. These are how your unit will attack and how your unit will attack depending on certain circumstances. For example, if you have a settler, like most likely the settler will not try to fight someone. Um, uh, but if you have a ranged unit, it's going to try to attack someone from 3 feet away or 4 feet away, depending on like what its range is. But a infantry unit will try to attack someone from like as close as they can. Meanwhile, a charging unit will try to attack someone who start far away and then try to get close to that person, so that way they can like charge at the person. So depending on like how they will attack, they that's how they will actually depending on like what type of unit they are, that's how they'll attack. And that's how these battle action references do. Yeah, I hope I didn't make that too confusing. But basically, the only things that you're really going to work on in here is going to be the simulation descriptor reference, the unit ability reference, and the path prerequisite, as well as like this. So everything from here on down is what you really want to focus on. Everything else doesn't necessarily matter. And just to make sure I am doing this correctly, yeah. So that's how all that works. And I'm reaching my 30-minute mark. So for right now, this is our unit. And right now we can't even play test it because we don't have it. This is just like, right now this is just a unit in the game. But later on in the next video, I will probably go into, well, the next one I should go into should be, I think, the unit design is pretty easy, but I think it's going to be the unit simulation descriptor, or, well, actually, just fixing out the unit profile, the unit type. Actually, I don't even think the unit profile I don't even need to do, because that's just dealing with, like, the heroes. So unless like we have heroes in here, then we'll work on the unit profile. But I'm losing my train of thought. Anyways, so yeah, I hope that this helped teach you how to make your own units. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, see you in my next video.